And the last of the groups is the business group. The business group associates a set of services and resources to users and groups. So this is really the link between the different pieces here. So you have your compute groups, you have your fabric groups, and those are all made up of resources you can consume. But how do you map those to users and groups? Well, that's what a business group does. A business group takes those different underlying groups and says, okay, those can be used for this organization or for this group of users. And that's what does the translation and mapping of basically user to a resource they can provision to. They're typically aligned to business units or organizations. So remember when we talked about the self-service catalog, we said that most of the multi-tenant designs are for business units or internal customers. So I probably have a finance organization, a development organization, maybe IT. Well, you usually assign business groups then to a business unit, so you have a unit that can consume its own resources, or you assign them to organizations and break it out that way. That's what you most typically see. So as we said before, business groups essentially can consume resources from fabric groups and the underlying groups within those. So when I click on a blueprint item, it first looks to my business group and it says, okay, which fabric groups, which compute groups are associated to that business group, and then it passes that request down and does the provisioning based on what pools or groups of resources are available. And lastly, the great thing about business groups are they allow approval logic and workflows to be set based on those resources. So maybe when my users request a blueprint item, they request a certain amount of CPUs and memory. And if it's under that certain gate, so 1 CPU and 2 gigs of RAM, it automatically goes through. But maybe they request a terabyte of storage, or 5 vCPUs, or 6 vCPUs. That might trigger an approval workflow. And you can also do that to which source they're provisioning to. So maybe you have compute groups broken out like tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3 based on performance. If someone provisions to tier 2 and 3, that automatically gets approved, but tier 1 requires admin approval or manager approval because it's more costly. So you can see how breaking these up into different groups and specifically different capabilities allows approval workflows to be applied to those. Really powerful combination.